What do jealousy, dust, bitter water, and the suspected affair have to do with the survival of an entire nation? More than you might think. At first glance, this looks like a story about a husband and wife. It isn't. It's a story about trust. Because when trust dies, suspicion takes its place. And when suspicion takes root, communities begin to fracture. Before Israel could continue its march toward the Promised Land, God stopped the nation to address a threat no army could defeat. Not an enemy, not a rebellion, but a breakdown of trust. You believe your wife has betrayed you. Every unanswered question feeds your suspicion. Every silence feels heavier than the last. But you have no witnesses, no evidence, no proof. In Israel, accusations alone were not enough. Truth required evidence. Justice required witnesses. So what happens when there are none? What happens when only two people know what really happened, and one of them isn't talking? The husband cannot prove his suspicion. The wife cannot prove her innocence. Human justice has reached its limit. But then God steps into the gap. He provides a way forward. The woman is brought before the priest, before the tabernacle, before the presence of the Lord. Maybe she's innocent. Maybe she's guilty. But either way, she's standing before God. The priest takes sacred water in an earthen vessel. Then he gathers dust from the floor of the tabernacle, dust from the very place where God's presence dwells. He mixes it into the water. And suddenly, everything comes down to this: a husband who doesn't know, a priest who can't know, a wife who knows, and a God who already knows. For the innocent woman, this ritual offered vindication. For the guilty woman, it offered nowhere left to hide. Imagine holding that cup, knowing that in a few moments, one of two things will happen. Either God will clear your name, or God will expose your sin. There is no third option. No argument, no defense, no place left to hide. If she was innocent, she would leave restored, her name cleared, her future intact. However, if she was guilty, God's judgment would fall. The very place where life begins would become a sign of judgment. What had been hidden would remain hidden no longer. But here's what makes this story so unsettling. The ritual wasn't designed to reveal the truth to God. God already knew. The husband didn't know, the priest didn't know, but God knew. Most courts require witnesses. God doesn't. Most secrets survive because there isn't enough evidence. This one wouldn't. Because the judge already knew the verdict before the trial began, and that's why this moment mattered to Israel. The issue wasn't jealousy. The issue was what happens when trust dies and no one can prove the truth. Before God entrusted Israel with a new land, He taught them a vital lesson. A nation can survive drought. A nation can survive enemies. However, it cannot survive when trust dies, because suspicion never stays private. Given enough time, it spreads from one tent to the next until the whole camp begins to fracture. Because covenant relationships between a husband and wife, neighbor, and a people and their God are built on truth. And truth matters to God. The terrifying part of this story isn't the sacred water. It's realizing there was never a mystery to God, which raises a sobering question. If God exposed the one thing you've worked hardest to keep hidden, what would come into the light? What part of your life are you asking Him to bless while quietly keeping it off limits to His authority? And if He put His finger on that area today, would you surrender it or fight to keep control of it?